Hello and welcome to High Trust Coaching Live. I am Hope Bourman. I'm Divisional President of High Trust Coaching, and I have with me one of our certified High Trust coaches, Dave Brown. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Hope.
Good morning. So today, Dave and I are going to go deep on two of the laws of high trust selling. And if you're not familiar with high trust selling, this is something that's foundational to our teaching, to our coaching, and to our business practices. So the two laws that we're going to be covering today is the law of the broom and also the law of the bullseye. So the law of the broom talks about to build your business up, you must first clean it up. And the law of the bullseye says, which it states, if you don't aim for the right prospects, you're likely to do business with any prospect. So Dave, these are your topics. So tell me, why are these two laws important?
Well, the law of the broom is important because if you're not operating an efficient business, then according to the high trust model, you're just working a lot harder than you need to be working. So the law of the broom talks about getting rid of inefficiencies and just creating a business model, a business plan that is just more conducive to doing higher volume, if that's somebody's goal. The law of the broom, the law of the bullseye is about really who we are choosing to do business with. Mm-hmm. And I will say that's a really, really hard lesson for loan officers to learn, because there's this mentality for most salespeople that more is more. And more is not always more. Sometimes less is more. And just because somebody has a real estate license, as an example, does not mean they qualify to be a partner. Mm-hmm. And, people that don't do a lot of business can be huge time drains and take us away from being a lot more effective. So it's about, targeting high quality people and not choosing to do business with just anybody because they happen, like I say, to have a real estate license.
Right. That's such an important conversation. And I don't know about you, Dave, but it's a conversation I've been having a lot with some of our coaching members. Just recently, we were having a conversation yesterday with one of our coaching members, one of our master level coaching members. We were having a conversation around a client that is a past client business. They've done business together for many years. And this particular client wants to do a construction loan. And this is not something that, my client does construction loans, but not that often, maybe one or two a year. They're very time consuming. And they are, at best, they're labor intensive. And we were kind of just having the conversation. It's like, Hope, do I do this loan do this loan and take up, the time and energy and an investment of time that I myself and my team would need to do this loan for this client, and basically step away from, maybe 5 or 10 other new pieces of business that I do much, much quicker. And we did decide to do it for this one client because he was a past client. So he's serving his database of clients and his past clients. So we are going to do that one transaction. But if somebody came out, off the streets and said, can you do construction loans? It would be a referral. So it was a great conversation for us to have to kind of decide to make that decision. Is for past clients, yes. But for any other business, this is not really my primary source of business.
Yeah. And I think there's a difference in terms of our clientele. There's kind of that old school ABC clients, and the A's are what we're really talking about with the law of the bullseye, is those folks that are doing, the lion's share of the business out there. That doesn't mean we won't take business from the B's and the C's. It really is more talking about who we are investing our time in and money, and willing to have more of that partnership. I have a realtor as an example that I was chasing for a while, and we did a little bit of business together, but I really came to the conclusion that she wasn't doing the type of business that she used to do back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And very nice lady, but I kind of made a decision that she wasn't really going to be in my top tier of realtors anymore. And so she wasn't getting the love and attention because there's only so much of us to go around.
Right.
And out of the blue, she called me, and we just closed the transaction. So again, you can still work with folks that maybe aren't top tier, but we're talking about where are you spending your time and your energy? Who are you investing in to help them in their business?
Mm-hmm.
Because again, we can't be everything to everybody, and that's largely what these two laws are talking about. Is really working smarter and not just harder.
Mm-hmm. And more strategically and more intentionally.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And I think there's also a mentality with loan officers that they need to embrace, is that, is this person qualified to work with me?
Yes.
And so that we create more of an attitude and a mentality of where we are in demand instead of on demand. And that we're not just going to jump, when a realtor calls us at 9:30 on a Saturday night when they suddenly need a pre-approval letter. That's not a partnership.
Thank you.
And a partnership is an agreement of expectations, and certainly making sure that we're meeting needs, but it's more reasonable. And if you're doing business proactively and correctly, they aren't going to need a pre-approval letter at 9:30 on a Saturday night, because I've trained them otherwise how to do that, so that we aren't ever running into that.
Yeah, I had a very similar conversation just like that yesterday, where I originate in an affluent market, as do you. It is a highly competitive market, as do you, and in Southern California. And I would work with top performing agents, and that was my conversation. This is how I work. I work 4.5-day work weeks. By Friday noon, if you don't have pre-approval letters, market updates, everything that you need for anybody that's getting in your car this weekend, you can call me on the weekend. That was the agreement. And it worked out really well. It worked out tremendously well. So absolutely. So Dave, you chose these two topics, the law of the broom and the law of the bullseye. How do you feel as though these two are intermixed with each other?
So, Todd teaches something that when I first heard it, it kind of was a rewiring of my brain a little bit. And it was that, whoever told you that to be successful, you had to work a certain number of hours a week. Sure. And as you know, we have people in the high trust environment. My former coach, as an example, who she does not work a 40-hour work week, and she does, unbelievable volume. She works less than a 40-hour work week because she's built a business that is not entirely just dependent on her ability to show up and perform every day. And one of the key metrics that we look at in coaching when we're helping our members is their dollar per hour. And, I would say one of our top goals in coaching is to help our members increase their dollar per hour. And you can do that in a couple ways. You can make the same money and work less, or you can make more money and work the same or less. And so that's what we're trying to help people do, is to leverage that very valuable commodity that we all get 24 hours a day of, and that's our time. And so these two laws, I think, when they are implemented correctly, help people live a more balanced life, because that's, we talk about more than just the mortgage business in coaching. We're trying to help our folks, succeed in all areas of their life. And if they're, killing it in the mortgage business, but they're working 80 hours a week, well, then their family is suffering, and their health is probably suffering, and their personal life is suffering. So, these two laws are imperative, I believe, to have balance while you still have success in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I can agree with you more, Dave. I know when I get on a call with one of our coaching members and that we're going over the metrics and we're looking at the hourly rate and they tell me, hope I'm working 12 to 14-hour days, my heart kind of drops a little. It always my heart kind of drops a little and thinks, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. What can we do? What can we do to minimize that to where you're going home at least? I know that it's busy. We know that we have, that it's literally, we're having record months and record, production, and rates are fantastic. They're going to continue to be so, at least through the end of the year, based on the forecast that I'm seeing. How can I get you home at least 2 nights a week at 5 o'clock, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's where I think coaching can come in with, little nuggets of, and I'll give you a couple of examples.
Sure.
Number one is a concept called one-timing, where we talk to our loan officers about, what are the things that you are doing on a regular basis over and over and over again that you can do what we call one-timing. And I'll give you an example. Perhaps a certain type of email that you need to send out on a regular basis to your clients, create a template so that you're not typing the same email every time. And you can send that out one time. Videos are great ways of doing one time. I mean, we talk a lot about using videos in coaching. I know Linda Davidson shared, whenever she did borrower consultations, she created a video way back in the day, even when it was a VCR. And when a borrower would come in, she'd sit him down in the office. First thing, play the video that answered the most common questions that she found that virtually all of her clients had. So that way, then so they'd watch that 10-minute video, she would go do other work, then she'd come in and meet with them, and she wouldn't have to answer those questions at the start of the conversation, and she could get into other aspects of working with that borrower. So there's just lots of things we can do, I believe, to use our time more efficiently and be home timely so we could spend that time with our families.
Yeah, I agree. I think that is probably one of the biggest pluses of being in coaching and having a coach is that you're slowing down. If you're in the weeds and you're in the midst of things, you're not going to stop and get a little creative. You're not going to stop and work on your business. You're just going to keep driving. And so you get on a coaching call with one of our coaches and we have this conversation around, okay, well, how can we section off a couple of days? What are you doing? What do you find yourself doing, or emails that you're writing 2 or 3 times? How can we one time that in a template, and that type of thing? And it's just 30 minutes of let's just dial this in and see if we can't help you win and get a little bit more life balance, right?
Yeah, and another time killer on that we talk about a lot, and Todd talks about this in Mastery, and he talks about it in Academy and Masterclass, is the time drain that email has become. And there are techniques and things that we can do where the email isn't gobbling up so much of our day. And I think the average loan officer out there, if they actually looked at it, I bet half of their day is reading and responding to emails. And, if they're doing that, then they're not building their business. They're not doing the 3 things that Todd says is where a loan officer should be spending their green time. And that's either meeting with a borrower, meeting with a partner, or working on operational excellence. That's where a loan officer should be spending 80% or more of their time. Otherwise, they're honestly relegating themselves to the position of a loan officer assistant or a processor, which isn't going to help them with their dollar per hour. So then you get into discussions on building a team and what to look for in a team and what that team can do for you and so forth.
So let's get into that for a minute, Dave. Let's talk about how we coach and how these laws would be applied to building a team, hiring the right people, bringing them on. What does that look like for you, Dave?
Well, first of all, I think you need to talk about what the expectation is. I think in today's world, and it depends on the environment you're in, whether it's a bank or a broker or a mortgage bank, because they're all a little different. what the criteria is to have a team and how many loans you can fund per team member. I think it's probably somewhere between a loan officer should be able to fund 5 to 8 loans a month on their own without a team.
Okay.
If they're consistently doing that, they're probably starting to hit their head on that glass ceiling, and they need to start thinking about bringing on a team member.
Yeah.
And that first team member should be a traditional loan officer assistant that is doing everything that isn't those 3 things that we talked about a minute ago, so that they can spend more time marketing, prospecting, loving on their clients, their partners, enhancing their business, and so forth. So, in terms of looking for a team member, there's lots of different methodologies for doing that. And there's some things we do help our members in terms of how and where to find those team members, what to do once they're on board. The website that is part of coaching has some great loan officer assistant training information in there. So I think there's a lot of value that coaching can bring to the table in helping somebody bring on that person, how to interview for that person, what to look for, what not to look for, and then what to do once they're on board.
Yeah. One of the things that's so true, Dave, and one of the things that I kind of find, and it's almost consistent in the very first thing that I coach to, is that a lot of loan originators, when they're looking to hire a loan officer assistant, they have a tendency to look for someone like themselves, which is really may not be the right approach. You're looking for someone that's spectacular at the back office, spectacular at customer service, spectacular at the details, putting a beautiful file together, pre-underwriting, pre-qualifying, and so I always have a little bit of a hesitancy, and I think that some of our loan officers sometimes forget how long it took them to really learn the mortgage business. So when they're hiring someone and they say, well, they don't have any background or experience in the mortgage industry, but I can train them. I tell them that's kind of a slippery slope, because how long did it take you to really get your arms around the mortgage industry? What do you think, Dave?
Yeah, there's 2 schools of thought on that. There's a school of thought that, hiring someone with experience is almost a necessity. But I also know, again, referring back to my coach, Teresa, her team is largely built on people that were not in the business. She brought them in, she trained them, and she really looked for attitude first. She looked for that willingness to serve, that ambition, that drive, that desire to be excellent. And then she trained them on the mortgage business. And it's probably a little bit longer road.
It's a longer road
up, but she is now, has this incredibly effective and loyal team. So I guess it kind of depends on the person and how critical it is that they get somebody in. All things considered, I would lean into experience pretty strongly. And then one last thing that you said, and that is, we don't want to hire ourselves.
Thank you.
Most loan officers are, in this personality disc assessment, we're high I's and we're high D's, and we really want that high S and that high C. That analytical person, that person that doesn't need to be front row and center, that doesn't need to be the life of the party, that's just real detail oriented. And that's often not what a loan officer is.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just normally we help go through that process. I know that, you were speaking of Teresa earlier, and, it's one of the things that she does when she works with our coaching members is she's basically coaching them on the right person. We're doing, for master level coaching members, we'll do a DISC profile and do that walkthrough to make sure that they are that person that is that perfect fit. And boy, when it is, it's magic. And whether they have experience or not. And I think that's the only thing that I, just really want to, there's nothing wrong with hiring somebody that without the experience. It's like you said, it's a longer road, and you just need to be prepared for that and be willing to have that level of patience in working with that person and getting them up to speed and getting an understanding, which traditionally I would say 6 to 9 months to get a foundation, Dave.
Yeah, at least. Yeah. There's a lot of moving parts in this business now, like you said, and I think a lot of us, we underestimate how much is just now, we take for granted that we know it just because we know it.
Right.
But it does take a while. And then, one more thing I would mention on this topic, and you kind of touched on it, and that is the idea of working on your business instead of just in your business.
Mhm.
And with that segues to this idea of time blocking. And, that's one of the things Todd teaches us, that we teach our members, is how critical and important time blocking is. So you're working from a proactive approach instead of a reactive approach. And
Mhm.
time blocking doesn't mean you have to have every minute of every day blocked out. It just means that we show you how to take the high priority items and make sure those at the very least are in your schedule, that you still have margin to react as you need to react, because stuff's going to come at us and we have to have some cushion to be able to do that. But we're making sure that those very high priority items of reaching out to our partners, of reaching out to our database, of giving timely updates on loans in process and things like that, make sure those are scheduled in. And even, myself personally, I actually have a time block item that says work on my business,
I
because
love that.
if I don't, then I continue to keep doing things the same way. And at least I'm asking the question, what does need work? What does need tweaking, fine tuning? What do we need to do a little better or differently? It's just, if nothing more, it's a reminder to not get complacent.
Yeah, it's so true. So you actually have that time blocked in your calendar on a weekly basis, Dave? Once a month, once a week? What does that look like?
Every Wednesday.
Every Wednesday.
Every Wednesday I have a note, and part of what that means, honestly, is I pull out my notes from Academy or Masterclass, and I start looking at some of those ideas that I wanted to implement that I don't want to implement. Because as we all know, when you go to those, you walk out of there, even as a coach, and though we're there, to help and facilitate, we're also learning and growing ourselves. And we all come out of there with, 80 gajillion ideas and things we want to implement. And, so I go back and look at that and decide, okay, what's the next thing that I need to implement that I haven't yet been able to do?
Okay, so I'll put you on the spot a little bit. What was one thing that you've kind of implemented, let's say the month of June, that's kind of new?
The month of June, that's kind of new. I got a little, because it got crazy in March and April, and that's never really an excuse, but it did. It got out of control. I got off track of doing my videos, and so I just recorded 2 videos yesterday, and I'm recording another one today. And along those lines of videos, just a quick thing is have fun with them. It doesn't always have to be all business. I'll just give you a little preview. The one I'm going to record today,
Okay.
I can ride a unicycle, and I'm going to ride a unicycle in the video today, and I'm going to use that, but I'm going to say something about the business with the unicycle, and it's something fun. But videos are a wonderful, wonderful tool for expanding our presence, and letting people know that you're out there. So I would say, re-engaging in video is probably one that I've done in June.
Yeah. I have to tell you, I've been listening a lot to Chris Voss. He's a trainer, but he was a former FBI negotiator. So I've been listening to his conversations over the last couple of days. And one of the things that he talks about is that the key to the best negotiation and he says, because we're always negotiating, even in a conversation we're negotiating, is to make people smile. And so I think that video is going to make people smile.
I actually did a unicycle video about 3 years ago, and I got a ton of feedback on it. And a lot of people like, wow, you really can ride a unicycle. And my marketing coordinator, who works for me, actually mentioned, she goes, you haven't, that was about 3 years ago. You did that unicycle video. Why don't we redo it? And so we're actually doing that today, right after this call.
That's fantastic. Well, I can't wait to see it, Dave. So
All right.
I'm going to segue just a little bit here because we're coming up on our half hour a little bit. And I want to, I want our coaching community and the high trust community to get to know our coaches, which is why we changed this format a little bit. So Dave, you're a highly successful producing manager. I believe that as of May, and I haven't seen your most recent numbers, your June numbers, but I think as of May, you and your team closed 135 units. Is that about right?
Is that annually or?
135 units year to date.
I would say at least. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. Okay. At least I was going as of, I think about a month ago. So
Yeah. I remember I sent you that info.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be right.
Some info when we were doing a different interview. You're in an affluent market. You're in Orange County, California, which is a highly competitive market. And you've been in the business. You're seasoned. You're savvy. You've got, you're very successful. Why did you decide to become a coach? Why high trust coaching? How has it impacted you and your life? And let's talk about coaching for a minute.
So, this was not on my radar at all. Somebody threw my name into the hat that knew me, and High Trust reached out to me, and we had a conversation. And as I thought about it, it wasn't an immediate, hey, yeah, that's great. I thought about it, and obviously I concluded that I wanted to do it, and I came up with 3 reasons why I wanted to do it. Number one is, this business has been very, very good to me and my family. And I thought, if I could throw a little bit back and help some other folks, that would be nice and fun. Number 2 is I love the idea, quite honestly, of being around people like you and Todd and the other coaches that, association is very, very powerful. I heard a saying one time that says, show me the people you hang out with and the books you read, and I'll show you the person you're going to be 5 years from today.
Yeah.
And so that the attraction of that awesome association, and then lastly, it from maybe a little bit of a selfish mode was it helps me keep my sword sharp, and that there's constantly things that I'm learning still by being in the business. I mean, the greatest athletes on the planet have coaches. Tiger Woods, Phil Mickelson have coaches. Great tennis players have coaches. Why is that? Well, people have coaches because they can perform at higher levels with a coach than without a coach. Yeah. It's just a fact. Yeah. And so that is why I decided to be a coach, and it's been a great ride. And I am just grateful to be part of this gang of coaches and Todd's ecosystem.
Yeah. Well, Dave, I can't tell you how much we value you. I mean, you bring such a wealth of knowledge to us every day. You bring your core values. You bring your calm voice, to the calls, and I just love having you on the team. I couldn't be prouder to have you as part of our high trust coaching faculty. So I just want to thank you so much for all that you do and for being a part of us. And we're coming up at the end of our hour. Is there, if anyone is interested, 2 things I want to make sure. If you're interested in talking to one of our coaching consultants, feel free to get a free coaching call. Go to hightrustcoaching.com and schedule a free coaching call with one of our coach consultants. And the last thing I do want to make sure to mention is that I am looking for new coaches. High Trust Coaching is continuing to grow in Canada and Australia and all over the United States. And so, that's kind of a very important. It's not just a coach. They have to be certified in high trust selling. They have to be graduates of the High Trust Selling Academy. They have to have a heart like Dave's, and really want to be invested and give up some of their, important time to give back. So if you're interested, go to High Trust Coaching, or just send me an email, hope.bourman@hightrustcoaching.com, and we'll get you dialed in and do an interview to see if you qualify.
Awesome. Well, thank you for the kind words, Hope. I appreciate it. And I'm humbled and privileged to be part of the system.
All right, dear. Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for joining. That's the end of our broadcast today. Thank you so much for joining us. And we have an amazing day. Have a gorgeous week. And go out there and win. Thank you again. Thanks,
bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.